The US tech tree line consists of the Langley, the Ranger, the Lexington, and the Midway, and is also joined by Premium, Saipan, and Enterprise, as well as the special ship, the FDR, also known as the Roosevelt. In terms of a basic commander build, the first 9 points will go into more, faster, healthier, as this is a basic 9-point build for every CV in the game. For additional placement of points, definitely look into Demolition Expert on the Lexington and the Midway, as they have a 6 bomb drop which can result in plus 30% chance of fire if all 6 are able to strike. Proximity Fuse is of limited usefulness, although it could be used on the Ranger, the Lexington, and the Midway, as torpedoes are going to be a very strong way to interact with battleships. The torpedo planes on the US line are not nimble enough to effectively interact with cruisers, and cruisers, having very little torpedo protection anyway, will not gain much off of this talent. Sight Stab is not necessary for the US line, although some people do prefer it on the Midway, as the torpedo aim is anemically slow, absolutely making Midway Torp bombers effective mostly on battleships and nothing else, other than parked cruisers that sit waiting for you to torp them. For additional point possibilities, I can't recommend additional bomb speed. I find that it's not necessary, although if you choose to double down on the Midway's unique upgrade, as well as additional bomb speed, I suppose the Midway can become fairly versatile with this 4-point talent. Additional secondaries have no meaning on the US ship. Flak protection is valuable against the slower torpedo planes and potentially slower bombers, depending on what you're using for maybe the Lexington or the Midway. Also, the Ranger could fall into this category. The US has very fast rocket planes, but very slow strike planes, as a bit of a weakness to it, although those slower planes do tend to interact with slower ships, i.e. battleships. If you find yourself encountering a great deal of flak, you can definitely look into this talent. Hidden Menace is currently bugged, and is causing additional resource loss, so cannot be recommended at this time. As for fighters will be addressed later. There are no AP munitions on the US line, so this is not something that I can recommend. Even on the Enterprise, which does contain AP bombs, I cannot recommend it there. As for Torp aiming talents, you can have reduced arming distance, as well as increased Torp speed. I find these are not necessary for the ship to perform. If you choose to take these talents, it may help your accuracy, but remember that if you end up speccing out of them later, it may be a detrimental experience for you. As far as boost talents go, Last Gasp is very strong on the US line, as often the US can look to get 2 strikes in with attack aircraft, potentially also torps when your heal is available, and even bombers on a Midway, or potentially the 9-plane squadron of a Ranger. As far as the reduced cooldown reload time of Engine Techie, I find this to be a novelty skill which has very little value. +1 fighter, also of small value. Cannot recommend the heal, as I don't think it provides enough for the US line. And once again, there's no reason to spec into secondaries, and your AA is only really to protect yourself, as your concealment is terrible, and you will not be able to travel with other teammates. As far as the fighter build goes, fighters are very reliant on fast planes, as the planes must be where the fighter is going to be placed. Outside of having extremely fast rocket planes, the other options on the US line are quite slow, making this not the strongest option for some kind of defensive build to counter an enemy CV. Still, if you choose to go into this, I can recommend that be more of a ranked option or a competitive option, as opposed to something used in a random battle. For Outliers, the Saipan absolutely wants to look at Proximity Fuse, as the Torps are incredible for the tier. She has Midway planes, but she has Lexington Torps, and she drops 4 of them at tier 8. So if you encounter a top tier situation, the 4 Torp drop that she has can be absolutely brutal. The Enterprise has very little difference as well. Demolition Expert's not going to have any value here because you lack high explosive bombs, although the rocket planes on the Lexington are rather amazing. And once again, I will warn you, do not pick this AP damage talent. It is extremely anemic and not useful. One thing the Enterprise does offer, though, is a buffed fighter consumable, which can be made even better by pointing into the fighter line. The Enterprise has a slightly larger patrol radius than a tier 10 fighter consumable, and rather than dropping 5 planes, drops 10. Making use of this and actually actually getting kills off of it, or getting plane kills off of it, can be extremely effective tier for tier.